Presented by Cursed by the Witch. Warning, use headphones before listening to horror podcast story.
The Haunting of Hollow Creek is a chilling and atmospheric horror story set in the eerie and desolate town of Hollow Creek, a place long abandoned due to a dark and tragic history. As the story unfolds, the unsettling secrets of the town emerge, and the protagonist finds themselves in a terrifying confrontation with the restless spirits that haunt its forgotten streets. Part 1. The Forgotten Town of Hollow Creek. The story begins with Emily Woods, a young journalist intrigued by local legends and determined to uncover the truth behind the mysterious disappearance of the entire population of Hollow Creek in the late 1800s. Hollow Creek was once a thriving mining town, but something went horribly wrong. Overnight, it became a ghost town, with no sign of life, just empty buildings, rotting cabins, and an air of abandonment. Over the years, stories have circulated about the town being cursed, haunted by the souls of those who disappeared. Despite the warnings, Emily decides to investigate. She's determined to write a groundbreaking article about the town's past, and with her recorder, camera, and flashlight, she ventures into Hollow Creek, unaware of the malevolent forces that linger in the shadows. As she arrives, a creeping sense of dread begins to settle over her, as though the town itself is watching her every move. Part 2. The First Signs of Haunting. Emily starts exploring Hollow Creek's decaying remnants, documenting her findings. The town is desolate, with crumbling buildings, rusting tools left where they were last used, and belongings scattered as if people had fled in a hurry. There's no sign of a struggle, no bodies, just emptiness. It's as though the town's population simply vanished into thin air. But the deeper Emily ventures into the town, the more she feels like she is not alone. At first, it's subtle, the sound of footsteps in an empty street, a shadow moving just beyond her field of vision, or whispers carried by the wind. Her equipment starts malfunctioning, her camera captures strange, distorted images, and her recorder picks up voices that aren't hers. There's a growing sense of foreboding, and the feeling that someone, or something, is watching her grow stronger with each passing hour. That night, Emily sets up camp in one of the old houses. She hears creaking floorboards above her, as though someone is pacing on the floor above. When she goes to check, she finds no one. It's only then that she realizes there are no animals, no birds, just an unnatural silence hanging over the town, broken only by the sound of her own breathing. Part 10. The Ghostly Apparitions. As Emily digs deeper into Hollow Creek's past, she begins uncovering stories of strange occurrences that took place before the town's mysterious disappearance. Old newspaper clippings mention miners reporting seeing ghostly figures in the tunnels, children disappearing without a trace, and entire families going mad from visions of shadowy figures that appeared in their homes. One recurring figure mentioned in the town's history is known only as the Hollow Man, a spectral figure said to haunt the town, luring the living into the darkness. One night, while reviewing her notes, Emily sees a shadow out of the corner of her eye. When she looks up, there's nothing there. But the feeling of being watched intensifies. Suddenly, the temperature in the room drops, and her breath becomes visible in the cold air. A figure appears in the corner of the room, dark, indistinct, and radiating an aura of malevolence. It is the Hollow Man. His hollow eyes seem to lock onto Emily, filling her with a paralyzing fear. The figure vanishes as quickly as it appeared, but from that moment on, the hauntings escalate. Emily starts hearing disembodied voices calling her name, and every shadow seems to twist and contort into grotesque shapes. Objects move on their own, doors slam shut, and invisible hands brush against her skin. The town itself seems to shift, Streets that should lead one way now lead in circles, trapping her within Hollow Creek's boundaries. The spirits of the town's lost residents are restless, and they are not friendly. Part 4. The Curse of Hollow Creek. Emily discovers an old journal in one of the abandoned houses, written by a former resident named Nathaniel Kane, a miner who lived in Hollow Creek at the time of its fall. The journal details the disturbing events that preceded the town's doom. It speaks of a curse placed on the town by the spirits of the land, angered by the greed of the townspeople and their exploitation of the land for gold. According to the journal, the townsfolk unknowingly disturbed something ancient and evil that lived deep beneath the ground, a dark force that awoke and began to consume the souls of the living. The townspeople began experiencing strange visions of their dead loved ones, of shadowy figures walking through their homes, of whispers in the night calling them to the mine. Eventually, those who looked into the eyes of the Hollow Man were never seen again. Panic spread, and those who tried to leave the town found themselves lost in an endless fog, always circling back to Hollow Creek. In the journal's final entry, Nathaniel writes that he could hear the voices of the dead calling to him, and he knows that his time is up. The last line reads, "They are coming for me. The shadows are crawling. There is no escape." Part 5. The Descent into Madness. As Emily reads Nathaniel's final words, she realizes that the same fate is now befalling her. The shadows have grown more aggressive, crawling across the walls and floors like living creatures. Each night, the Hollow Man appears, standing closer and closer to her, his hollow eyes filled with malice. The town has her trapped, and there's no way out. Emily begins to lose track of time. Days blend into nights, and her sense of reality starts to slip. She sees figures in the distance, pale, ghostly apparitions of the townspeople, their faces twisted in agony as they wander the streets. They beckon her to join them, to give in to the darkness. Her nightmares become indistinguishable from reality, and she starts hearing voices in her head, whispering that there is no escape from Hollow Creek. She tries to leave, but every road leads back to the center of town, where the entrance to the old, abandoned mine looms like a dark, gaping mouth. Emily knows that the answers lie within the mine, but she also knows that entering it may be her doom. Part 6. The Final Confrontation. Desperate for answers and driven by the ghostly voices that now haunt her every thought, Emily decides to venture into the mine. Armed with only a flashlight and the last of her courage, she descends into the darkness, where the air grows colder and the shadows thicker. The deeper she goes, the louder the whispers become, urging her to turn back, but something pulls her forward. In the depths of the mine, Emily discovers an ancient, crumbling altar surrounded by the skeletal remains of those who came before her. It is here that the Hollow Man waits, his form more solid now, towering over her like a specter of death. Emily realizes that the Hollow Man is not just a ghost, he is the embodiment of the curse, a spirit of vengeance bound to the town, feeding off the fear and souls of those who enter. The Hollow Man speaks to her, his voice a low, guttural growl, telling her that she can never leave. Hollow Creek is his domain, and all who enter are doomed to become part of the darkness. As the shadows close in around her, Emily tries to fight back, but the force is too strong. The spirits of the town, the lost souls of Hollow Creek, rise from the shadows, pulling her into their ranks. Epilogue: The New Ghost of Hollow Creek. Weeks later, a team of investigators is sent to find Emily after she fails to return. When they arrive in Hollow Creek, they find no sign of her, just her abandoned car and scattered belongings. As they search the town, one of the investigators swears he sees a figure in the distance, standing at the entrance of the mine. It is a woman, her face pale and gaunt, her eyes hollow. She vanishes into the shadows, leaving the investigators with an overwhelming sense of dread. They leave the town, never to return, but the legend of Hollow Creek grows. Now, it's said that if you enter Hollow Creek at night, you might see the ghost of Emily Woods wandering the streets, her hollow eyes filled with the same darkness that consumed the town over a century ago. And if you look too closely, the Hollow Man will come for you too. The haunting of Hollow Creek is a tale of inevitable doom, where the past's dark secrets reach out to claim the living. With its eerie atmosphere, creeping shadows, and restless spirits, the story weaves a chilling narrative that builds on the fear of isolation, the unknown, and the inescapable pull of the supernatural. The story's setting, Hollow Creek, becomes a character in itself, haunted, cursed, and forever waiting for the next soul to fall into its clutches.
Thank you for watching. Just like and subscribe.